Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Sectors Made Simple. Today, we are talking about DeepSeek. This company has made headlines over the past few days for the absolute chaos that it caused to the US stock market and what DeepSeek might mean for AI as a whole. So, today, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to look at DeepSeek and what impact it has had on the stock market and some different ways that we can look at where AI and tech companies go from here. Unfortunately, if you haven't noticed, I'm invisible today. There's something going on with the camera, but shouldn't get in the way of us talking about some very interesting stuff about DeepSeek and AI. So let's get started here with our quick disclaimer. Please remember, purpose of this webinar is for educational purposes. It is not to tell you to go buy one company or sell another. Everything we cover here is research that I've done, opinions that I've created based on that research, and I've shared with you. Not in the hope that you blindly listen to what I say, in the hope that you can take this information, do more research, and then make your own informed investment decisions. So, let's get into it. DeepSeek, AI, and Nvidia. So we're going to talk about what generative AI is, why generative AI relies on companies like Nvidia, who and what DeepSeek is, what contributed to the AI stock market crash on January 27th, 2025, if you're watching this live yesterday, which companies and sectors were impacted and why, and then we're going to try something a little bit different. Instead of me giving my analysis and my opinion of the current situation of things, instead we're going to look at it through the eyes of two different types of investors. A bullish investor that is looking for every opportunity they can find, and then a bearish investor who is trying to figure out all of the things that could go wrong. That might be an interesting way for us to be able to study what's happening because it allows us to look at the good and the bad all at the same time. Again, do I expect you to be one or the other or follow the bullish or the bearish side? No. The whole point is to show two extremes, one very positive and one very negative, so you can decide where you fall in the middle. So let's get started. What is generative AI? Thankfully, generative AI is a very good name for what it is. It's AI that can generate or create new information. So what it does is it takes in a user prompt. I ask it something, and it gives me information or an answer to solve that prompt. Now, the very interesting thing about generative AI is that it's not going out to Google, finding an answer, and then giving it to me. In fact, let's have a little bit of fun, shall we? I'm going to open up one of the most popular generative AI programs, ChatGPT, and we're going to have a little bit of fun. Please write me a haiku explaining what generative AI is. Machines learn and dream, creating from thought and code, new worlds formed from words. That poem does not exist somewhere on the internet. It does not exist on some piece of art hung up in someone's inspirational gallery in their house. A computer took what I asked it to do, write a haiku explaining what generative AI is, and took its information that it's learned from the world and wrote me a haiku. That is what generative AI can do. It can take something I ask it to do, and even if it's something that no one has asked it to do before, it can do it and answer that question for me. So Unsurprisingly, companies like ChatGPT or its owner, OpenAI, have become widely popular. And it is thanks to quite literally trillions of pieces of data that has been given to this program and told, learn from it. Essentially, what we've done is we've given a computer the entire recorded history of everything and said, learn from this, figure out how it works, become an expert at everything. Now, that seems like a pretty easy thing to do, or not. But regardless, that training is extremely expensive. We're talking millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. But not just for the computers needed to train it, but also for the energy to power those computers as well. So, before we get into that, let's ask the question, why is generative AI so popular? Simple. It can do almost anything. It can answer questions. Ask it a math question. Ask it a geography question. Ask it a question about ducks. It will probably be able to answer it very accurately. It can create recipes. Say you want to cook a dish and you have spinach, arugula, celery, and carrots in your fridge. You can ask it, create me a recipe with these ingredients. And it can. It can write emails. Maybe your boss is making you work on a Saturday and you really don't want to send that email. Well, you can ask ChatGPT to do it for you. It will write an email. You can copy and paste it. Please don't do that. I'm not giving you advice here. But it can do that. It can write emails if you tell it what you want it to do. You can have it write the emails in the voice of a cowboy. You can have it write the emails in the voice of me. Please don't do that. I don't want to be replaced by AI. But what it can also do is it can write computer code. If you have a thing that you want to code and you don't really know how to code, you can explain what you want the program to do, and generative AI programs can take that and turn it into a program that you can then run. And all of this is talking about text. We're talking, it's just making words. But in recent years, generative AI has become so powerful that it can even create pictures, movies, B-roll for film, entire songs, and more. Now, all of this comes at a cost. It is power at the cost of power. Generative AI, like ChatGPT, is extremely powerful, but only because it has taken a lot of time and energy, literally energy, to train. Just to give you a few rough ideas of numbers here. ChatGPT has their most recent model, which is named GPT-4. That model is estimated to have taken around 50,000 to 62,000 megawatt hours of power. For some idea, your average electric car has somewhere in the range of 70 to 100 kilowatts of power. Probably doesn't mean much to you, and if it doesn't, I understand. So here is a number you might get. The amount of power that it took to train GPT-4 is similar to that of how much power 5,000 to 6,000 houses would consume in an entire year. ChatGPT and GPT-4 became a city in terms of how much power it took. And keep in mind, that's only the electricity needed to power the computers. What about the computers themselves? If you've bought a computer anytime in recent memory, you'll know they're not cheap. And the hardware, the computers needed for AI, are definitely not cheap. Machine learning, which is the big kind of family that generative AI falls into. Basically, having a computer machine learn. It is done through very complex math equations. And the way that it learns is by changing the formula over and over and over until it gets an answer that it's happier with. Now, these equations have to be done trillions of times. So, we need the best hardware, the best stuff we can to actually go ahead and train these models, these machines. The best that we have is called a GPU, or graphics processing unit. You have one in your computer. It is what is creating the screen that you are looking at. All of that is the GPU. But GPUs can also be used for AI. Current estimates show that GPT-4 was trained on around 25,000 GPUs, called the A100. The per unit cost of an A100 was around $6,500. I'm going to save you a bunch of math and just tell you it cost OpenAI over $100 million to buy the hardware and train GPT-4. That's a lot of money. So now I want to look at something. I mentioned the A100 GPU, but I didn't mention a company. Why? Dramatic effect. Because now we have Nvidia. Those A100 GPUs are a product manufactured by Nvidia, ticker symbol NVDA. Now, it should come as no surprise that GPUs are very, very advanced pieces of hardware. They are incredibly complex to develop, and they are incredibly expensive to develop. So because of that, there are very few companies that produce graphics units, and even fewer that can do it at the level that is needed for AI. So for training AI, right now there's really only two options: Nvidia and AMD. But the two of them are not equal. Nvidia currently holds around 70 to 95% of the market share for AI accelerators, or graphics units, GPUs. So what that means is that Nvidia is the market. If you want to train AI, you're probably going to be using Nvidia products to do it. And that has led to Nvidia's rise to success. AI has become the new thing. Everyone is talking about AI. If you want to make your product sound super fancy, it has AI built in. Funny enough, even Nvidia now is advertising that their GPUs have AI built in. You know, we've gotten really far down into this when the company that is selling products to AI companies is also using AI in their products that they're selling to. I'm going to stop there. You get the idea. It's absurd. Everyone is talking about AI. So much so that big FANG companies like Meta and Google wanted to get in on the action. But they don't manufacture their own GPUs. So instead, they started buying GPUs from Nvidia. And again, Nvidia is the market. So when the market is becoming crazy and Nvidia is the market, Nvidia is going to go crazy. ChatGPT was launched on November 30th, 2022. Since then, Nvidia's stock price is up over 700%. And over the past 5 years, Nvidia is up over 2,000%. So, Nvidia's share price has skyrocketed. And a lot of it is due to the rise of AI. But they're not the only company to benefit as a result of AI. AI has impacted other companies and even other sectors as well, where companies that you would at first think are completely unrelated to technology have benefited from the craze. None more than utilities. The utility sector, the S&P 500 ETF for this is XLU, has been one of the largest beneficiaries of this change. Basically, they've seen the best changes because of AI. In just the past 3 months, we had two major headlines for utilities. First, Microsoft partnered with the company Constellation Energy, ticker symbol CEG, to reopen the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. Why? Well, don't take my word for it. Let's listen to Microsoft. Microsoft partnered with Constellation to reopen the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant to power their data centers. Fancy word for saying their computers to train AI. Plus, the Department of Energy recognizes how important it's going to be for us to grow our ability to create power and energy. The Department of Energy has set the goal of tripling the US's nuclear energy capacity by 2050. All of that's to say, the utility sector has performed extremely well, largely due to the rise of AI, and how much attention has been given to AI and the power that it needs to succeed. But why does all this matter? Why have we taken the time to go over all of this if it's not actually talking about what happened yesterday? Well, because it's really important for us to understand why we are here. Why has AI become so important? Why has the stock market become in love with AI? And more importantly, why did AI wipe out $1 trillion in market cap yesterday? And to that, there's the one thing that we haven't discussed yet: fear. There is a lot of fear and uncertainty when it comes to AI. Because how do you put a value on it? How do you put a value on something that can learn and then, in many cases, teach or provide information, education, whatever it is? It's very, very difficult to figure out what the real value of that is. So many view AI as the new dot-com bubble. For anyone that's unfamiliar, back in the early 2000s, there were companies popping up left and right, talking about and falling in love with this new idea of the World Wide Web, the internet. Crazy amount of money was being thrown at companies left and right because companies were making millions left and right. And all of a sudden, companies started investing in dot-com or tech companies that immediately failed or went bankrupt or, for whatever reason, didn't perform well. The end result of this is that the bubble burst and tech stocks fell anywhere from 60 to 80% in value. It is one of the largest bear markets in history. So, many fear that we were seeing the same thing here. We are seeing AI become the only thing that companies are talking about. We are seeing new companies get millions of dollars in funding to do AI without much consideration or thought as to, should we be investing this much? So some people, cautious people, were kind of thinking this looks like a bubble and that the overvalued and overinflated hype surrounding AI is going to pop. And when it does, it would send share prices tumbling. Just to throw some numbers out there about where we are at with some tech companies right now, the price to earnings ratio, the number between for every dollar of earnings, how much are you paying in share price, is around $28.77. So what that means is if you want to buy $1 worth of earnings in the S&P 500, it will cost you $28.77. Really expensive, right? Well, yeah. 2 years ago, it was 19. So, Nvidia, 50.81. It is almost double the P/E of the S&P 500. That is crazy. Uh-oh. Subtitles are currently not available. Let's try this again. Technical difficulties. Give me one moment, please. In the meantime, I have a question for all of you. Have any of you spent any time using ChatGPT or any generative AI? And if so, have you found it to be helpful, not helpful, gives good information, bad information? What's everyone's opinion and experience with ChatGPT? I'll tell you what, I have found it very helpful. Do I use it for everything? No. What I typically will do is I will use ChatGPT as a first step. It saves me the first step of trying to do something. And then I take what it says and use that as the starting point and then do my own thing with it. Looks like we're back with subtitles. Alrighty. So again, where we were at here is that Nvidia is extremely expensive compared to the S&P 500 and many other companies. Yes, I use it almost every day. It's my assistant. I understand that. Now, let's talk about DeepSeek. DeepSeek is a Chinese company that was founded in 2023. It focused on developing a type of generative AI known as a large language model, LLM. An LLM is essentially just like ChatGPT. You tell it something and it answers you with words. It uses language to give you the answer. It's very helpful, but might be scary after you realize how much information you could be sharing, and it could be learning from you. Yes, I agree, Rosita, and we'll get to that in a little bit. You read ahead in the slides, didn't you? Alrighty. So DeepSeek is a Chinese company that is working on and has released a large language model meant to compete with ChatGPT. Their most recent model was released on the App Store on January 10th, 2025. But why do they matter? We already have ChatGPT. If their goal is to just be another ChatGPT, why should we care? Why is DeepSeek unique? That rhymes. DeepSeek is different because they've claimed and also have shown that the R1 is in direct competition with ChatGPT's GPT-4. Remember, ChatGPT's GPT-4 cost over $100 million to train. DeepSeek says that they trained the R1 for just $6 million. They're saying it can do everything that ChatGPT can, and many tests from third parties, other people, have shown that, yes, it is very, very, very good. So it competes with ChatGPT, but for $6 million instead of $100 million. And it only required a tenth of the energy needed to train GPT-4. This is where all of the madness started. All of a sudden, there's a new kid on the block, and guess what? He has the shiniest bike, and it's got a bell. And the best part, it was tons cheaper than the bike that you bought. All of a sudden, you're starting to look at that bike saying, I want that. Did I make this presentation with ChatGPT? I did not know. I have used ChatGPT before to answer some questions. Like, for example, one thing I did use ChatGPT for, we go back really quickly. The GPT-4 model is estimated to have consumed 50,000 to 62,000 megawatt hours of power. I know what that number means. Barely. So I asked ChatGPT, can you turn this number into something that everyone will be able to understand? And it did. It told me that it's about the same power as 5,000 to 6,000 houses consume per year, or the population of Palo Alto. So, getting back into DeepSeek, again, they've done what ChatGPT thought they could do, but for far cheaper with far less energy. Oh, there's a couple of questions here. I want to make sure I can answer these before we get into how DeepSeek affected the market. If DeepSeek did a lot with a few thousand chips, what could be the limits if they have access to millions of chips as big tech is doing? They could send AI to the next level. The news is bullish on all aspects. What are your thoughts? I will get to my thoughts here in a little bit, because I do cover that in the presentation. I don't cover the first question, and that is an amazing question. If they were able to train this model with thousands of chips, what could they do with millions? There's this idea known as diminishing return, where if you have 1,000 computers, you can make 100% of ChatGPT. But if you suddenly went from 1,000 to 2,000, you don't get 200% of ChatGPT. Instead, you get 110. Then, if we go from 2,000 to 3,000, you don't get, because remember, the first 1,000 was 100%, the second 1,000 was 10%, the next 1,000 is going to be 5%, the next 1,000 is going to be 2%. All of a sudden, you start losing the value. So that's the biggest challenge and why companies are spending so much money on AI. They need to be the best. But to go from 90% the best to 100% the best is not 10% more effort. It's 100 times more effort. It is way more difficult. And the more and more you put into it, the less and less you get out. And that is why DeepSeek is so impactful right now. It is making us have to rethink everything about what we thought was the limits, because really one of the biggest limits has been power. Some companies are taking their data centers and putting them in the Arctic, in cold places, so it's cheaper to cool the computers. Other companies are trying to put them underwater. We are looking for crazy ideas for how to make this stuff cheaper. So if power is no longer the limiting factor, now we can start to add in more of those chips. Now we can start to see how far we can push it. But going from 10,000 to a million It's not going to multiply the results by 100 times. It's just going to increase the performance by a little bit. But in this world, that little bit could mean everything. Rosita, how reliable is the information about DeepSeek? Government tends to be involved in almost everything. Yes, I agree. You stole my slides. I promise you, I have an entire thing on that, and if I start talking about it now, we're never going to get to the rest because I will talk about that all afternoon and evening. I love where your head's at. It is in the right spot. Let me get through these last couple slides, then we can have a fun conversation about that. So, what impact did DeepSeek have? Well, if their numbers are true, if they were able to create a model that challenges the two main beliefs that we had about AI, that it requires spending tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Oh, please don't apologize. Those are great questions. And two, that training these models requires an insane amount of power. Those two principles, not even ideas, those two principles of AI as we knew it, if those are all of a sudden gone, where is the limit? So, DeepSeek entered the App Store and all of a sudden, over the weekend, overtook ChatGPT as the most downloaded large language learning model app. It is now the most popular LLM, or the most popular chat bot, let's just call it. And needless to say, the stock market went bananas, and not in a good way. But before we get to how the stock market responded, Rosita, let's have a fun chat. I want to provide a disclaimer, not just about DeepSeek, but about AI and generative AI as a whole. Generative AI is a very, very, very powerful tool. It has so many great uses, and it is very good at answering questions, and very good at making you think they know the right answer. But there's no indication. It doesn't tell you if the answer is wrong, or if it's not sure about the answer. It doesn't tell you, I know for a fact that this is true, or that this is not true. I used to do this one question. I want to see if it still works. ChatGPT actually seems to have fixed this. Oh no, here we go. All right, let's have some fun. All right. Alrighty. So, I know who this is because she's my mom. She's my mother. But if I ask ChatGPT, who is Julie Stav? She's an educator and financial expert, best known for her work in helping people, especially Spanish-speaking audiences, understand personal finance and investing. Hey mom, sound like you? Would I like more details on her work? Yes, I would. What books has she written? The stock market or life? Your money or your life? That sounds like a threat if I'm being robbed, not a book, and definitely not a book that my mom has written. This is a perfect example where if you didn't know what books Julie Stav had written, this is going to trick you into thinking it knows exactly who Julie Stav is. It doesn't say, I think she wrote some books. It tells you she has written several books. And the two books that it wrote, or that it gave us, are not books that she has written. Nowhere in this does it include any of the 3 books that she has written. The only reason I know that is I'm related to her. But if you're just trying to do some research for a paper that you're writing in school, or you're trying to do research on what What investment books should you read? That information is not only not correct, it's also completely misleading. It's giving you an answer. It's not just telling you, I don't know. It's telling you, I know, and then giving you the wrong answer. That is one of the biggest dangers of generative AI, in my opinion. But also, Rosita, it creates a lot of room for disinformation, where it thinks, rather, the ChatGPT example I just gave is funny, but it made a mistake. If someone didn't have the best intentions, if someone was trying to be a bad person, for the lack of a better term, and you ask them who is Julie Stav, they could tell you something intentionally completely wrong. If you ask about a historical event that happened somewhere in the world, they could decide that they're going to tell you that event never happened, or just disregard it entirely. I'm not going to go through individual examples. The whole point here isn't to put one company or another on blast or call them out. I encourage you to do some research into whatever AI program you choose to use, because many of them do have issues where the governments that fund them or the governments that they are affiliated with will decide what information can and can't be said, or in some cases, replace correct and real information with completely fake and false information. All right, I lied. DeepSeek. That is one of the biggest pieces of controversy around DeepSeek. There are a lot of things you can ask DeepSeek that it will start to answer you and then realize you're asking something that it probably shouldn't answer, and it just zips its mouth, deletes everything it said, and instead tells you, I don't know. How about we talk about anything else? How about the weather? So yes, trust but verify. Again, I encourage you to use ChatGPT. I encourage you to use any generative AI. They are a great tool, but trust but verify. Don't assume that they are going to give you the correct answer. It's going to save you some time, but don't let it cost you the correct information. Alrighty, stock market time. Today is January 28th, 2025. Yesterday was January 27th, 2025. And as the conversation around DeepSeek over the weekend picked up, investors started to do what investors usually do, which is they look at it and have a very calm, rational conversation about the differences between ChatGPT and DeepSeek and what opportunity. No, I'm kidding. They lost their minds. Nvidia had a massive sell-off at market open. The stock fell 14% in a single morning, and the trade volume yesterday was over 4 times its normal volume. So yes, people lost their minds. But it was not just a single company. This panic spread to other semiconductor companies as well. Intel, AMD, Broadcom, all of these companies also experienced significant drops in share price, where the SOX semiconductor ETF reported a loss of 7% for the day. But it wasn't just semiconductors. Utilities also got hit. The renewable energy industry fell 12%, and the independent power producers industry was hit even harder with a 16.5% loss. Adding up all the losses and putting it into a tally, over $1 trillion in market cap was lost yesterday in the stock market. The market closed yesterday, the world kept spinning, and it reopened today. So, as the dust settled after the AI insanity, or asanity, investors were left with more questions than answers. Is DeepSeek to blame for what happened? Is DeepSeek the new OpenAI? What is the new fair value of Nvidia, AMD, and Intel? Will utilities companies rebound the same as chip manufacturers have? Because today, Nvidia rose, Broadcom rose, the entire semiconductor industry had some recovery. Utilities companies, not so much. And unfortunately, I don't have many of the answers for these. I mean, I can give you my best shot. Is DeepSeek to blame for this crash? Yes. Partially. I think a lot of it too is people that were thinking that we're seeing an AI bubble, thought that this is the moment that it pops, and they panicked because of it. Is DeepSeek the new OpenAI? No. I don't think so. What is the new fair value of Nvidia, AMD, and Intel? I wish I knew. If I did, probably have all my money in that. Will utilities companies rebound the same? Absolutely no clue. So instead of trying to answer and give good answers for all of these, let's look at it a different way. Let's let the bulls and the bears fight over the situation. So we're going to look at the current state of the stock market and AI in two different ways. First, we'll look at it as if we were a bullish investor. Everything is great. I want to see where is the opportunity for me to invest and make some money. Then we'll look at the exact same situation through the eyes of a bearish investor. Someone thinks that the bubble is popping and is fearful of where the market could go from here. Again, the goal is not that you are the bullish investor or you are the bearish investor. The goal is that we can look at good and bad all at the same time and figure out where we fall in between. So let's look at the bullish perspective, talking first about day trading. The reality is, a savvy investor does not care if the stock market is going up or down. They just want the market to go somewhere, anywhere but sideways. The reason? You can buy puts. If you think the price is going to go down, you buy puts. You think the price is going to go up, you buy calls. Options can play both positive and negative. All you care is that the price is moving, there's a lot of action, and whenever there's a big shakeup in the market like there is right now, prices will change quickly and trade volume jumps. For some numbers, average daily volume for Nvidia over the past 3 months has been 221 million shares per day. Daily volume yesterday, 820 million, and today, 573 million. So the dust has not settled. There is still a lot of action going on with Nvidia, and investors are still trying to figure out where the new value of Nvidia is. This increased trade volume and price movement means that there's a lot more action, and if you're looking for technical indicators, signals to buy based on some technical strategy, those signals might be coming up more often because of this. For short-term investing, market panic can be a very good time to buy up strong stocks at a discount. Like we talked about before, the market's reaction to this was extreme, and today we saw recovery. Nvidia was up 8.8%. Stocks up 0.45%. There are tons of companies that are solidly recovering already. And if you're looking to find something that might be at a discount right now, these tech companies that had a massive sell-off could be that. There is zero proof that Nvidia is currently, or even was, overbought, meaning there's too many people getting in, it's not worth it anymore. In fact, let's look at the analysts. Analysts have a lot more time, a lot more resources, and a lot more money to throw at this question. Is Nvidia overbought, oversold, or fair valued? As of today, out of 60 analysts, 61, my apologies, math is a little tricky today. 51 rate Nvidia as a buy, 10% rate it as overweighted, but 0 rate it as a sell. Additionally, many of these analysts will set what is known as a price target. That is the price that they are looking at as where they feel the fair value could be. Well, the average target price of these analysts is $175 per share. Market close today was $118. So we are not even close to what the average target price is. Even the most pessimistic, the least happy of these analysts has the price target of $120. So as far as the analysts are concerned, the stock is still a buy. And in fact, it is not even close to its target price. So while we've highlighted Nvidia here, this same process of researching analyst ratings and target prices and figuring out, are these stocks actually still valuable, should be done. Because what we've done here can be applied to semiconductor companies or utilities companies as well. Then finally, the mid to long-term perspective. DeepSeek, it's today's news. It was yesterday's news. By next Monday, it's going to be old news. People are going to forget about it. But even today, it's worth mentioning that DeepSeek, yes, they trained it for pennies on the dollar, but it was still done using Nvidia's GPUs. Just not as many of them. Nvidia does not have much competition as far as creating hardware, creating the computers needed to train AI. They are still the industry. And if anything, DeepSeek should help Nvidia's stock price. Please remember again, this is not my opinion or recommendation. I'm strictly talking here about just the bullish perspective. The everything is great. The cup is not even half full. It's overflowing. So Nvidia, they are still the company for hardware. And in fact, what we are seeing with DeepSeek could be a sign that Nvidia could grow more. Because all of a sudden, you don't need $100 million in funding to train the next ChatGPT. $6 million, a good computer, and a dream, you can do it too. So more companies might be able to get funding. More companies might try and get involved in what can be known as the AI space race, where all of a sudden, US companies, Indian companies, Chinese companies, South Korean companies, all of these international companies are getting government or local funding to develop the next ChatGPT. And until Nvidia's dominance is threatened, until someone comes out and says, I have better hardware for cheaper and with more power, Nvidia's not going anywhere. Promise I didn't spy on your presentation, but I got a similar analysis about Nvidia. That is, see, you're hitting the nail right on the head. I like where your head's at. Alrighty, that's the bullish side. For day traders and for options, the volatility means that there is plenty of technical signals to pick up an options trade. You don't care if it's going up or it's going down. You just want to go in somewhere, and that is almost guaranteed right now. For the short term, Again, this could be an opportunity to buy up Nvidia or other companies that have fallen behind because of the recent news at a discount. And mid to long term, Nvidia is still Nvidia. DeepSeek is using the AI technology. It is not replacing Nvidia or any of the other large institutions within the AI space. If anything, the only one that should be challenged by it is OpenAI, and they're not even publicly traded. Now, we can put the bowls aside, drain the cup, because the cup is no longer half empty. It is now completely empty. Here's the bearish perspective. Starting with day trading. Implied volatility, the guessing at where the price could be in the future for 10-day options has doubled, meaning people are way less sure about what the price of Nvidia is going to be. Because of this, when implied volatility increases, so does the price of the option. Usually, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But here's the problem, and I already mentioned it before. DeepSeek was this past weekend's news, yesterday's news, and today's news. This too shall pass. DeepSeek will likely not become the biggest topic for the next month. And because of that, as the shock of DeepSeek's entrance to the market goes away, implied volatility is going to drop. Today, it is already dropping. If I go and try and find the implied volatility, let me see if I can find this for you. Yes, this is the chart that I wanted. This is for 30-day. If we look at 10-day implied volatility, there we go. It started off at 0.38. There's the double I was talking about. It's already dropped from 0.82 to 0.56. When the implied volatility drops, just like when implied volatility went up, the options price went up. When the implied volatility goes back down, aka theta, the theta will impact the options price quite a bit, which means all of a sudden the price of that stock, or rather the price of that option, is changing and negatively changing due to something completely outside of the stock's price itself. That is a very scary thing, because you can't really beat implied volatility. If you bought something with the hopes that implied volatility is what makes you your profit, you have to hope that more crazy news comes out that offsets the loss of implied volatility, because the news is starting to forget already. So from a bearish perspective, the fact that implied volatility is such a big part of the options price right now means that as implied volatility goes back down, so does the options price, even if Nvidia's share price doesn't change at all. Short term. This week is the beginning of earnings season, and it's starting off with a bang. Tomorrow, beyond Tesla, which is not included here, we will have earnings from Meta and Microsoft, with Apple following close behind on Thursday. These three companies have invested heavily into either developing AI with Nvidia's hardware, or in the case of Apple, developing AI completely on their own as well. Subtitles, are you okay? Are you okay, subtitles? I believe in you. Alrighty. So again, this week we're going to have earnings from Meta, Microsoft tomorrow, and then Apple on Thursday. And these companies are heavily involved in AI. So while their earnings numbers are going to be interesting, we are also going to be waiting to see what they say about DeepSeek. What is their plan? Are they changing their plan? Earlier today, I saw a headline. I don't remember the source, and I'm not saying this because this is what's happening, but it was something along the lines of Meta engineers scramble to figure out how DeepSeek did it. I don't know if that's actually happening, but that kind of thought, that kind of worry could fuel or could make its way into these earnings calls. And if investors are already losing their minds, any additional bad news could send their stock price spiraling. And then finally, while Nvidia's earnings are not expected until late February, it's pretty likely that any sell-off in tech from Microsoft, Meta, Apple could spark another negative trend for Nvidia that gets caught up in the nonsense. Then finally, the bearish perspective for the mid to long term. DeepSeek is not the only challenge that the AI industry is facing. To highlight one such example, on Monday, January 27th, Trump stated that he intends to place tariffs, on computer chips and semiconductors that are imported into the United States. Primarily, he plans to implement these tariffs on Taiwan. Taiwan produces over 90% of the chips used in AI products. So what that means is if a 25% tariff is implemented, the cost to import the chips that we need for all of these GPUs is going to go up by 25%. Now, the reason he said that they are doing this is to try and bring more of the chip manufacturing here to the US. But the CHIPS Act, which was passed back in 2022, tried to do that. It tried to increase the production of chips here in the United States. But the problem is that all of the funding, the $50 billion in funding, came in the form of grants that were delivered to companies. And currently, all government funding and grants have been frozen. This could change. This will likely change. But for the time being, there will be a 25% tariff on the most important imported good for AI. And currently, there's zero money going out to companies to increase production in the US. And furthermore, developing these advanced chips in the US is going to take 5 to 15 years. Not something we're going to see happen before the next round of GPUs. So if this bill is dropped or canceled, it will negatively impact all semiconductor manufacturers and consumers, AI developers included. So from the bearish side, options run into a bit of a problem with implied volatility, where now there's something that's affecting the price and fighting against your profits, and it is completely out of your control. For the short term, earnings and the worry surrounding how DeepSeek's introduction might affect these large companies that have invested millions or billions of dollars into AI. And then finally, the risks that a tariff placed on Taiwan could have for chip manufacturing and the prices that we have to pay to get the chips needed to do AI in the first place. Every day, I realize the news scares the uninformed like me. The reality of it is, there's too much news out there. So, the way that I personally like to look at things is I like to look at the headline. DeepSeek causes a massive decline in the stock market. And I try and figure out why. What are the reasons that people have panicked? And is that panic correct or not? On the other side, is there opportunity here? Can I profit off of someone else's panic. Everyone always worries, oh, is Nvidia too expensive? I finally have some money. I got my tax return. Should I spend it on Nvidia stock now? Seeing the stock fall 18% in a single day could signal to one person that they want nothing to do with it, or signal to another person, sweet, discount, it's on sale. There's no right or wrong answer. So the best thing we can do is follow what's happening. Follow the stock prices, try and keep up with the news, and remember that the market's going to lose their minds one way or another. Because again, a savvy investor cares about one thing: the market moving somewhere. They want it to move up, they want it to move down, they don't want it to not move at all. So because of that, this is a great example of this idea in real life. Make your own judgment off of how you view DeepSeek and the risks or benefits that it might present in terms of Nvidia stock price, and the stock price of other semiconductor manufacturers and utilities. I understand today was a pretty hefty webinar of information, but there's really a lot for us to cover here. AI is the big thing that everyone is talking about, and I really wanted to take this opportunity to cover it all. Now, if you have any questions, if something was unclear, or you want to discuss this further, please send me an email. If you haven't noticed, I genuinely love talking about stuff like this. So if you send me an email with your questions, or your ideas, or your thoughts, it'll be very fun to continue the conversation with you. But until next time, thank you all so much for joining us today. Quick announcements. We are in the middle of our La Magia de las Opciones series, not ours, my mom's series that she is doing, that is starting from square one and taking a look at options and how you can trade them. So if this slide sounded pretty good to you, those classes would be pretty interesting. Oops, wrong slide. This slide sounds interesting to you. There's a lot of opportunity there to start off on the ground floor. These classes are included for Sectors Made Simple annual subscribers. So if you have an annual subscription and you're not signed up yet, shoot me an email. I can get you set up with the coupon code. If you are not an annual subscriber, but you're interested in upgrading to an annual subscription and getting the class, you can send me an email as well. Or if you just want to buy the classes on their own, send me an email as well, and I can get you set up there as well. Then finally, on Thursday, in our SM Español webinar, I will be presenting with you all, and we're going to take a look at Sectors Made Simple together. In Spanish, we're going to look over what the tools are, how you use them, how you find the webinars, and lots more. But until then, thank you all so much for joining us here at Sectors Made Simple. It's a pleasure to get to cover current events and breaking news and help you understand how it affects the market and your investments simpler. Take care, everyone. Bye.